The 60s were exciting times. The days before tedious stuff, like the Dangerous Wild Animals Act of 1976. And if you fancied buying yourself a lion, there was nothing to stop you. You simply popped down to the shops.
In 1969, Harrods was offering a lion cub as the ultimate Christmas present.
You could not resist loving this animal. We just looked and thought, my heavens, we've got to do something about this.
Stumping up the equivalent of £4,000, John Rendell and Ace Burke bought the Harrods lion. Naming him Christian, they took him home to Sophisticat, a London furniture shop. It's still trading, but in new premises.
I mean, seriously, it was in a shop like this, amidst all the furniture. I mean, literally, the lion, the sofa, and the wardrobe.
That's exactly right. This was Christian's jungle. And he used to sneak around between all the chairs, stalking people. Here he was sitting...
Here he is.
There he is.
This is your Christian gallery here.
Sitting on the stairs.
I mean, what did the customers make of him?
They loved it.
How old is he in this picture here?
He's about 8 months old there.
And obviously he looks as if he was happy to be handled.
Yeah, yes, he had complete trust in us. Of course, it's impossible to assess what Christian thought we were. All he knew was that we just loved him unconditionally. And here he is up in the flat, you see.
My gosh. I mean, he is a lion.
Yeah.
Were people right to be a bit wary?
They were right to be wary, but he never attacked anybody.
How wonderful.
Yes.
And this is before the age of health and safety, so there was nobody coming along to the shop and saying, you can't do that, mate.
Absolutely not.
Christian became the focus of John and Ace's lives, but the growing lion needed space, which was in short supply on the King's Road.
So this is where you would come? It's a graveyard.
It is a graveyard. And a perfect, safe, walled garden for him to come and play football.
And you persuaded the vicar to let you bring a lion in your car?
He was a marvellous man. He was an animal lover. He said, of course you can bring your lion here.
And did you have a, if I may ask you, did you have a pooper scooper?
No, I'm afraid not. No.
Standards were different in the 1960s.
Very different, yes, but it wasn't a scooper pooper, it was a scooper shovel.
But I mean, it's amazing, a lion running free in West London.
I know.
Despite their close bond, John and Ace knew Christian couldn't stay in London much longer. But putting him back into captivity would be betrayal.
It was quite distressing as to what was going to happen to him. And so I was quite pleased when Bill Travers walked into the shop looking for a desk. And I thought, I know who you are. I've got something to show you.
Bill Travers and Virginia McKenna, stars of the hit film Born Free, instantly joined Christian's fan club.
That moment was absolutely wonderful. And I thought as I looked at him that he was one of the most beautiful young lions that I'd ever seen. There was just something about him.
With Bill's help, the Harrods lion was given a chance of freedom. He was flown to Kenya, where conservationist George Adamson attempted to integrate him into the wild.
I felt confident that Christian would have a fulfilled life in the wild forever, however long or short that might be. Even if it was a year, it would be better than a lifetime in a zoo.
Christian had left a massive gap in John and Ace's lives. A year later, they flew to Kenya with a cameraman, hoping to film him. But the lion was wild now, and potentially dangerous. Had he forgotten his human friends?
You can see him thinking it through. Is it them? Is it them? Is it them? And that is when he started to run. When he actually jumped into our arms and was rubbing against us, I mean, that was an extraordinary feeling. You know, this huge animal now. It was a unique privilege to be there. The sheer, just excitement that he hadn't forgotten us.
It's remarkable that a lion from Harrods should manage to adapt to the wilds of Africa. John and Ace will never forget the cub they released into freedom. But what's more remarkable is that Christian didn't forget them.
Oh, it's given me goose pimples, that has.
What a moment.
Oh, me and Giles have got to...
It's an amazing story, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's an extraordinary story, and it is not unique. I've got another bit of footage to show you now about Queeby the gorilla. Queeby the gorilla was brought up in captivity at the Aspinall Family Zoo in Kent, hand-reared for 5 years. Then he became too big. They knew they had to release him into the wild. Yeah. They went to West Africa, to the Gabon, and they gave, as it were, Queeby back to nature, as they rightly should. 5 years later, Damien Aspinall thought, I wonder what's happening. So he went to Africa 5 years later. The last time Queeby had been seen, he had twice he'd attacked humans. And Damien went in a boat to try and find him. Came to the shore, calling out his name, looking for this wild gorilla. And watch what happened next.
And I go and see him, and he embraces me and hugs me, and there's just not many better moments than that. You know, you develop these incredibly strong emotional bonds because they're so closely related to us.
See, Damien and the gorilla had not met for 5 years, but the gorilla definitely did remember. And this is all to do with something called imprinting. Essentially, about 100 years ago, this was discovered. When baby animals are born, indeed when birds are hatched from their eggs, the first thing they see, even if it's an inanimate object, the first thing they see moving, they want to follow it. It imprints itself on them. And this actually has had some wonderful implications in terms of conservation. Condors in California were dying out. There were about 9 of them left in the early 1980s, because condors, great wild birds, they only breed when they're about 6 years of age. They breed quite slowly, only 1 egg every 2 years. So they had this idea of actually taking the egg away from the live condor, letting it hatch, and then showing the condor a puppet of a condor. Here's a photograph of a puppet of a condor apparently rearing a baby condor. This enabled the adult to give birth to another chicken and lay another egg, and they were able to, as it were, rear these baby condors with puppets of condors. And now, in California, from 9, there are about 100, I think it's about 178 condors.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
It's that interesting argument of should you allow the imprinting to happen with the humans, which obviously it happened there with, you know, with the lion cub and the
problem
gorillas.
is, you know, if in general you shouldn't keep wild animals. It's simple as that. The fact they are so intelligent and it proves they shouldn't be imprisoned for our amusement. They're not here for our amusement. It is a privilege, and that's a nice ending, but it shouldn't have been inherited in the first place. You know, it's people see things like this and they think, oh, how cute, I could have one, and they just shouldn't. Yeah. You just shouldn't keep a wild animal.
And it can't be done now, of course. There was legislation that followed that made it impossible. And it does now make a contribution to conservation. So it's a difficult one.
Yeah, that's different.
Well, thanks, Giles, for that.